Have you ever heard of camping trips that don't end as planned? What starts as a fun escape into nature, breaking away from the routine of daily life, can quickly turn into an unforgettable nightmare. For a group of young friends in today's story, this trip becomes a haunting ordeal that stays with them forever. Deep in the Maine woods, where tales of eerie mysteries have been whispered for generations, dark secrets await this group. In just one night, their lives are upended as they face an inexplicable, unseen force. Mysterious footsteps, faint whispers for help from the shadows, and the chilling figure of a child all draw them into a whirlwind of terror. Let's uncover what happened to them and whether they escaped the horrors that awaited them. Story 1. The Friends Who Never Returned. In 2015, a close-knit group of friends, Sarah, Mark, Jessica, and Tom, decided to go camping to escape their hectic lives in New York City. Seeking a retreat into untouched nature, far from cell signals and daily distractions, they selected an isolated forest in Maine. Known for its beautiful yet treacherous landscapes, it seemed like the perfect getaway. At first, everything was wonderful. The group enjoyed the fresh air, snapped pictures of the stunning views, and shared spooky stories by the campfire. But as night fell, the surroundings grew more unsettling. Around midnight, while they were chatting, Jessica heard footsteps in the distance. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but the sounds grew clearer, closer. Jessica tried to convince herself it was just animals, but an uneasy feeling lingered. When she shared her worry, her friends laughed it off, teasing her about her nerves. However, just moments later, a faint, childlike voice echoed from deep within the forest. "Help me. Is anyone there?" The words, barely a whisper in the silence, sent chills through the group. Sarah, the bravest among them, decided to investigate, but Mark held her back, warning that it might be a trap. Though unsure who or what was crying out in the darkness, the group agreed to stay in their tent, hoping it was all a trick of the mind. But when they heard dragging footsteps and snapping branches near their campsite, fear took hold of them all. The next morning, they awoke with a sense of dread. Mark found strange footprints embedded in the damp earth, leading to a large tree nearby. Alongside the footprints were faint blood streaks, as if something had been dragged into the forest. Tom, a pragmatic thinker, urged them to head back to their car and leave immediately. However, Sarah, determined to get to the bottom of things, persuaded the group to stay one more night. She didn't want their trip ruined by unexplained, eerie events. That afternoon, they ventured farther out to find water. Near a stream, they found an abandoned backpack on a rock. Inside were family photos, including a picture of a smiling young girl. Jessica gasped when she realized the girl in the picture resembled the voice she'd heard the previous night, the voice of a child asking for help. That night, as they gathered around the fire, the footsteps returned, louder and moving straight toward them. When they turned, they saw a shadowy figure between the trees, eyes glowing in the dark. No one dared make a sound as they held their breath, waiting. The figure came closer, and they saw it was the form of a child, pale-faced with empty eyes gazing blankly at them. The child said nothing, just stood there, then slowly turned and walked away into the darkness, as if inviting them to follow. Jessica, unable to contain her curiosity, stepped forward. The group tried to hold her back, but it was as though an invisible force pulled her. Only when Sarah yanked her hand did they manage to break free. The next morning, they found that Mark had disappeared. On the ground where he'd last been, there were claw marks and a trail of dragged footsteps leading away from the campfire. No one could explain what had happened to Mark, but their terror intensified. They split up to search for him, but found no trace other than his torn jacket and a trail of blood-stained leaves leading deeper into the forest. Tom, now convinced of an unexplainable force, insisted they leave immediately, and this time, no one disagreed. As they hurried back toward their car, they kept seeing visions of the girl with empty eyes watching from a distance. Sometimes she just stood there, staring quietly. But other times she moved closer, her unsettling smile blurring the line between reality and illusion. After escaping the forest, they reported Mark's disappearance. Despite extensive searches, no trace of him was ever found. Rumors circulated about the missing souls in the forest, eerie tales locals had shared for years. But only those who survived that trip could understand the haunting reality of the Maine woods. Years later, Sarah, Jessica, and Tom still can't shake the disturbing images of that time. Sometimes, late at night, they hear a girl's laughter and see those hollow eyes in their dreams, ensuring they'll never set foot in that forest again. Story 2. The Curse of the Old House, a ghost at the Friends reunion. This group of friends included 5 people who had known each other since high school: Jack, Lisa, Mark, Sarah, and Tom. After graduating college, they each went their separate ways, busy with their careers and lives. One night, Jack decided to organize a reunion to reminisce about old memories. He chose his grandmother's house as the location, a historic home located in a quiet suburb in Massachusetts. Growing up, Jack had heard his grandmother tell mysterious stories about the house, though he dismissed them as tales meant to scare children. However, when he stepped inside the house after so many years, a sudden chill crept over him. The dusty walls, old family photos, and the sound of wind howling through cracks created an unsettling atmosphere. When the group arrived, they laughed and talked, trying to shake off the eerie feeling. But that night, a series of strange events began to unfold. Around midnight, as the group sat in the living room playing cards, they heard strange noises coming from the basement. Jack tried to reassure everyone that it was just the usual creaks of an old house. However, the sound didn't stop. It grew louder, as if someone was moving heavy objects below. Sarah, the most easily frightened of the group, wanted to leave. But Tom and Mark, curious by nature, decided to check the basement. The basement was dark and smelled musty. As they descended, the dim light from their phone flashlights barely illuminated their path, adding to the eerie feeling. When they discovered a small door leading to a storage room, the strange noises abruptly stopped, leaving them even more uneasy. They returned to the living room without finding anything unusual. But soon after, the noises started again, this time from the attic. Determined to get to the bottom of it, the group went upstairs. As they reached the attic, a foul smell filled the air, forcing everyone to cover their noses. There, they found an old wooden chest, locked tight. Overwhelmed by curiosity, Jack and Mark forced the lock open. Inside were personal belongings, including old family photos of Jack's relatives and a diary. In the diary were scribbled accounts of strange events, sleepless nights due to odd noises, and even dreams of a woman in a white dress appearing in the house. Just then, Lisa gasped as she caught sight of a figure outside the attic window. A woman with long hair, dressed in white, staring directly at them. When they turned back, she was gone. Over the following days, each member of the group experienced strange occurrences. Lisa saw a shadowy figure standing at the foot of her bed every night. Mark heard his name being whispered into his ear as he tried to sleep. Sarah couldn't escape the image of the woman in white whenever she closed her eyes, and Jack began to dream of his grandmother, as if she was desperately trying to warn him about something in the house. The climax came when they uncovered a chilling entry in the diary. It mentioned the tragic death of a mysterious woman who had once come to the house for work, but later vanished without a trace. The story became even more terrifying when they realized these experiences were not mere coincidences. On the final night before they planned to leave, they decided to perform a ritual to try and help the woman's spirit find peace. However, as they began, a powerful gust of wind blew through the room, and the shadow of the woman appeared clearly in the mirror, as if mocking their naive attempt. They left the house immediately, abandoning all their belongings, and never returned. But even after they returned home, The shadow of the woman continued to haunt them. Some of the group needed therapy, while others struggled to sleep peacefully for years. Story 3. The Tale of the Friends and Their Terrifying Trip into the Woods. A group of young friends from college decided to organize a weekend camping trip in a famous forest in Oregon. This area was known locally for strange stories involving mysterious disappearances and supernatural phenomena. Their group consisted of 4 members: Mike, Julie, Alex, and Sarah. They had been close friends since high school, and this trip was seen as a way to rekindle their friendship after a long period of studying and working hard. They packed their car and prepared everything needed for a 3-day camping adventure. Upon arriving, the group set up camp and began to explore the surroundings. However, from the very first hours, they sensed something was off. The air in the dense forest felt heavy, and every sound seemed drowned out by an eerie silence. Only the wind whistling through the leaves and faint rustling sounds hinted that something might be moving nearby. The first night passed relatively normally, although Sarah heard a few strange noises outside the porch. She described them as the sound of someone walking lightly, yet hesitantly, not far from where they were sleeping. Alex reassured her that it was probably just some wild animal wandering around, and everyone fell back asleep, although the feeling of unease lingered. The next morning, the group decided to venture deeper into the woods. Mike led the way, but it felt like they had lost their sense of direction without realizing it. By afternoon, they stumbled upon a small, abandoned wooden cabin hidden among the trees. Instead of ignoring it, the group decided to go inside to explore. Inside, they found nothing but some old furniture covered in dust. Julie noticed several burned photographs scattered on a table. The photos depicted a family that once lived there, but the faces of the people were strangely blurred. A sense of dread washed over them, and they quickly exited the house. As they left, Sarah insisted she had seen a shadow flit past the window, but no one in the group fully believed her. That evening, as they sat around the campfire, they began to feel as though something was watching them from the darkness. Julie said she felt a pair of eyes staring intently at her from the bushes nearby. Mike, trying to lighten the mood, suggested it was probably just their imaginations. However, when the wind picked up, Alex heard a strange voice echoing from somewhere in the woods, faint yet unmistakably clear. They decided to turn in early, hoping sleep would help calm their nerves. But that night, the footsteps returned, clearer and closer. Sarah gasped when she saw the dark figure she had spotted earlier lurking outside the tent. She screamed, and the entire group woke up, fleeing from the shadows. They all heard distinct whispers, repeating an incomprehensible phrase over and over. Early the next morning, as the faint light began to filter through the leaves, the group decided to leave immediately. They quickly packed their things and headed out of the campsite. However, it felt as though an invisible force was preventing them from leaving. At that moment, Alex discovered that his compass and map were missing, even though he clearly remembered putting them in his backpack. Feeling trapped, they tried to find their way out by following the direction of the sun. Yet, no matter how far they walked, they found themselves circling back to where they started. The sense of disorientation grew stronger, and they began to fear they might never escape the woods. In desperation, Mike decided to lead everyone along a narrow trail. That was when they heard heavy footsteps behind them, growing closer. Julie screamed as she saw the dark figure approaching, its empty eyes radiating an inexplicable, terrifying energy. After a frantic escape, they finally spotted a glimmer of light at the end of the trail. With all their remaining strength, they rushed toward it and escaped the forest. When they looked back, the dark figure was gone, but the feeling of unease lingered with them all the way home. After that event, they all felt changed. Some members of the group constantly experienced nightmares and heard whispering sounds whenever they were alone. Sarah, the most affected, even vowed never to step foot in any forest again. Thank you for watching today's story. I hope these chilling experiences have made you reflect on fears and trust in life. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on more engaging stories and interesting content in the future. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.